So yesterday we discussed about what is the AWS. Just a minute. So yesterday we discussed about the course contents, what I'm going to cover in AWS. So this course content is solution, AWS solution, architect and professional. Both are going to be covered.
Hello,
Hello.
anyone is here?
Yeah. Who is this?
Hello, hello.
Yeah. Yavraj. Yeah, Yavraj. Hello. I'm audible for everyone, right?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So as a cloud admin, or DevOps engineer, or Linux admin, everyone they're going to work on some application. Everyone is going to work on some application. What are these applications? What type of applications we have? One is standalone application. Standalone application, web application, and mobile application. Either developer or a programmer or a cloud admin, DevOps engineers, all these guys they're going to work. All these guys are going to work on some applications. The applications are classified as three types: standalone application, web application, and mobile application. So these are the types of applications. Coming to the standalone application. What is the meaning of standalone? Standalone applications always install on end user system, or local system. The laptop is a local system, desktop is a local system. All these are client systems. All these are the standalone applications are going to install on client systems or end user system. The example for standalone application. Like your calculator, calendar, calculator. All this comes under standalone application, where it is installed on your local system, or end user system, or installed on end user or local system. The meaning of standalone: these applications we cannot access from remote system. These applications we can't access from remote system, only on local system. That is called as a standalone application. web application. What is this web application? These applications are hosted on remote system. These applications are hosted on remote system. How we are going to access these applications? Through internet. We want to access this web application, we need internet. We need internet connection because these are hosted on remote system. And this web application, to access this web application, we don't require to install anything on local system. You don't need to install anything on local system. For example, you want to access gmail.com. What is gmail.com? Is a application. You just open the Google Chrome, not only Gmail, you can take it as Flipkart.
Sir, can you speak somewhat louder, sir?
Mute yourself. All of you mute yourself. Flipkart is example for web application. Flipkart is example for web application where it is hosted on internet. It is hosted on internet. So you want to access this Flipkart or Amazon or Gmail, Yahoo. All these are example for web application. These are the hosted on remote system. You want to access this web application in your local system. We don't need to install anything, any software on local system to access this web application. To access this web application, we don't need to install anything on local system. We just need a browser. We just need a browser. This is the example for web application. So these applications are running somewhere in the world. We don't know where this application is hosted. And the people are accessing this application by using internet. And these web applications are again classified as two types. One is static web application. The other one is dynamic web application. These applications are classified as two types, static and dynamic. I told you what is this web application. They're all hosted on target system. Target means remote systems. Again, these are classified as two types, static and dynamic. What is the static web application? In static web application, there is no user interaction. With that application. This is the best example for static web application. We can't able to edit this. We can't able to modify this. Only to view the content. Only we can view the content. It is not asking for credentials, login name and password. No credentials required. Anyone can access this static web application. No credentials required. No input is required from the user. It is only to read the content. All the e-papers like Hindu, Deccan Chronicle, all the e-papers are static. We can only read. We can't able to edit. We can't able to modify. This is the best example for static web application. So we don't require any credentials to access this static web application. What's the purpose of the static web application? Only to view the content. Only to view the content. Cannot edit or modify. Cannot edit or modify the text. Only for read. This is called static web application. In static web application, there is no option called register yourself. There is no option called register yourself. Like food apps, all the food apps are static. No need to register yourself. Amazon.in also static web application. No registration required for that. No registration, no payment gateway. It won't ask you to pay the amount through credit card. No payment gateways, no credentials, no registration. That is called static. What are the programming languages they use to develop this static web application? What are the languages they are going to use to develop this static web applications? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, React.js, AngularJS, all these programming languages, they're going to use to develop this static web application. For example, this is called static. What programming language here? HTML. So this is comes under static web application. There are separate developers, programmers who are going to write the code for this static web application. And these languages are used to develop a presentation layer. Used to develop in presentation layer. So there are three types of layers we'll discuss later. There are three types of layers. One is called presentation layer, application layer, and data link layer. So as a cloud admin, you need to understand where we use presentation layer, where we use application layer, where we use data link layer. Learning the AWS not a matter. Anyone can learn. Hello. Hello. Learning AWS not a matter. Anyone can learn. Hello. Anyone can learn because AWS everything is graphical mode, like Windows operating system. Anyone can operate Windows, so anyone can learn AWS. Learning AWS is not a matter, but working on AWS cloud is a challenges. Working on AWS is a challenge. Why? Because you need to understand what are the types of OSA layers. Types of OSA layers. What is presentation layer? What is application? What is static web application? What is dynamic? Where we use static? Where we use dynamic? All this stuff you require to work on AWS. So these are the languages. These are the languages we are going to use. We are going to use to develop this presentation layer. The static web application, it always runs on presentation layer. Static web applications always runs on presentation layer. So to develop this presentation layer, basically presentation layer, not audible. Am I audible to everyone? Hello?
Yes, sir, audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Static web application runs on presentation layer. Presentation layer, nothing but a graphical mode, GUI mode. Graphical mode, GUI mode, graphical user interface. It is called presentation layer. You see here, Flipkart, online shopping, it is called graphical mode, graphical user interface. This is called presentation layer. This is called as a presentation layer. We are able to see that. We are able to read the content. So a static web application, it always runs on presentation layer. Example for static web application, all the banking applications. All the banking applications are static web application. SBI Bank, when you open the browser, type sbi.com. SBI net banking. All the net banking applications are presentation layer, static web application. This is called presentation layer. It is not asking for any input from the user. No credentials required. No payment gateways. This is called presentation layer. To host this static web application, or deploy the static web application, we need a web server. We need a web server. What are the web servers we have? In Windows, we call it as a IIS. IIS stands Internet Information Service. Internet Information Service. If it is Microsoft, all Unix flavors, either Linux, Solaris, HP Unix, all Unix flavors, we call it as a Apache. Apache the service. Basically, IIS is the service to configure web server. Apache the service to configure web server. Also, in Unix, HA proxy. All these are services. All these are services to configure web server. Every operating system has their own web server. So Windows we call it IIS, Unix we call it as a Apache. Basically, we are going to discuss Linux administration, how to set up this web server. So as a cloud admin, you need to understand how to set up a web server, how to deploy this standalone application, how to deploy the static web application on web server. We'll discuss both theoretically and practically. So that is the purpose of web server, for hosting the web pages. What type of web page, what type of application? That is called as a static web application. That is called as a static web application. Come to the dynamic web application. What is this dynamic web application? Dynamic web application take the input from the user. Take the input from the user. For example, in Flipkart or SBA, here we have login credentials. This is called dynamic web application. It always takes the input from the user. If any application asking the details from the user, asking the details from the end user, then that is called as a dynamic web application. Login credentials, even net banking, all the net banking applications are dynamic. You have to give the login name and password. So this is the example for dynamic web application. Like login credentials, payment gateway, pay the amount through credit card, debit card, order the product. When you order the product, that is also called dynamic web application. That is also called dynamic web application. So the dynamic web application always runs on application layer. It always runs on application layer. So for dynamic web application, along with presentation layer, we need application layer. We need a application layer. Without presentation layer, there is no application layer. Without a presentation layer, there is no application layer. Whenever we are accessing any application, web application, it won't ask directly the username password. You see first the dashboard, the home page. The home page is by default configured on web server. The home page by default configured on web server. The home page is hosted on static web page. This is called static web page. So that need a presentation layer. So directly we cannot run dynamic web application without a static web application. So that's why dynamic web application along with presentation layer, we need a application layer. Example for dynamic web application, all the banking applications. Whenever you type sba.com, by default, they're getting home page. That home page is static. That is called presentation layer. When you're providing login name and password, the credential, that is called dynamic. Runs on application layer. So to develop this presentation layer, there are separate developers. There are separate developers. We call it as a UI. UI stands user interface. UI stands user interface. UI stands user interface. That is graphical mode. User interface means graphical mode. There are separate developers who are going to work on this static web application user interface. So in dynamic web application, the presentation layer communicate with application layer. The presentation layer communicate with application layer. Let us take an example. So there is a server. There is a server contains the hardware. It contains the hardware. On top of this, we are going to install the operating system, either Windows or Linux. Anyways, operating system either Windows or Linux. On top of this, we are going to install the software Java, .NET. Most of the applications, 80% of the applications are Java application. Java has lot of demand. On top of this, we are going to configure Tomcat. Tomcat is application server. There is a web server called Apache, web server and application server. There is a web server and application server. Web server for static web pages, application server for dynamic web pages. So both are hosted here. So here we are going to configure APIs. The developers they're going to configure API. API stands application program interface. API stands Application Program Interface. When it asks for the credentials, login name and password, it is calling one API. It is calling one API. When you click on the order, it is calling another API. Payment gateway, another API. Login credentials, another gateway, another API. So multiple APIs are configured here. So who are going to develop this, configure these APIs? By the UI developers. All these APIs are going to configure, developed by the UI developers. So what are the programming languages they're going to use? Java, Node.js, Java, Node.js, Python, .NET, Ruby. All these are languages to develop these APIs. So what does this application layer will do in the background? What does this application layer will do at the background? The application layer going to retrieve the data, process the data, and retrieve the data from the database server. When you insert ATM card, the menu what you're seeing in the ATM, that menu like draw the amount, check the balance amount, change the PIN number. That menu is developed in static. When you click on the balance amount, it asks for the credentials. It is calling one API. Ask for the credentials, calling one API. Application Program Interface. When you're giving the login credentials, PIN number, the application layer take the data from the user, process the data, and send the data to the database server, where the PIN number is in the database server. In gmail.com, yahoo.com, we have provided the credentials, login name and password. The credentials, the application layer taking the input from the user, process the data, and send the data to the database server. Once the username password is matches here, then only you're able to see how much amount you have. You're able to see the mails. So that is the job of the application layer. This is the background. The application layer take the input from the user, process the data, and send the data to the database server. So this database server, it runs on data link layer. Database servers runs on data link layer. There are the three types of layers you need to understand before you learn AWS. Any questions, guys? So finally, application layer will communicate with data link layer. For read, write, update or delete operations. Drawing amount means we are updating. Deport the amount. All these are updating. So write operations, read operations, update operations. See, in this scenario, the application layer always communicates with the data link layer. This is the difference between static and dynamic. Coming to the mobile application. Coming to the mobile application. You are aware of this mobile application. Whatever the application you are downloading from the Play Store, like WhatsApp, Truecaller, all this comes under mobile application. What software they're going to use? Android, iOS. There are separate developers who are called as a Android developer, iOS developer. Their job is to develop this mobile application. So you might be heard about this iOS. What is iOS stands? iPhone operating system. iOS stands iPhone operating system. Android developer, iOS developer. This is comes under mobile application. Now there is a server on internet, hosted on internet. This is my laptop. This is my desktop. Assume that this is my desktop. Tomorrow when you join as a programmer, developer, or Linux administrator, or cloud admin, they're going to provide you either lab or desktop. They're going to provide you either lab or desktop. And this one is your laptop. Either lab or a tab. Either lab or a tab. So either you might be having the physical access desktop or you might be having the physical access laptop. So from desktop, I'm typing, I want to access this Flipkart. So what I'll type? Flipkart.com. What I'll type? Flipkart.com. So when you type this Flipkart.com, Flipkart.com. Here there is a API already configured. It call one API. Asking for login name and password. To access this Flipkart.com from your desktop, I don't need to install anything in my desktop. We can directly access the Flipkart.com. Here, if it is lab, to access Flipkart.com from your lab or desktop, what do you require? You have to download the app Flipkart. You have to download the app. Download app. From that app, we can access Flipkart.com. That is difference between desktop and laptop. Vikram, we need a app need to be installed. SBI, all the banking sectors, they have their own app. Bus reservation. We have a red bus for bus reservation. Book My Show. All these are apps you have to download from the Play Store. That is different between laptop and desktop. So does it mean that the application layer, data link layer, both are installed on your mobile. Now, it is going to install only presentation layer. In your mobile, it is going to install only presentation layer. If you download the book my show, you can see the content, the options and the content. That is called as a presentation layer. That is called as a presentation layer. The application layer, data link layer are hosted, are configured in your web server on internet. So here we have a database server. Here we have a database server. So this API calls, when leave the login and password, this API calls it is going to call the API. This API send the credentials to the database server. So this is the types of applications and types of layers. Here we have login API, order API, account API, payment API. There are so many APIs are configured. So this is my database server. In database servers again classified as two types. Database servers are classified as two types. One is SQL database. The other one is NoSQL database. SQL and NoSQL database. In AWS, we have a concept called RDS. RDS stands Relational Database Service. We are going to discuss about RDS in AWS. In RDS, we are going to discuss about what is SQL database, what is NoSQL database. Now, you want to host all this infrastructure like database server, application server, web servers. You want production servers. To host all this infrastructure, I need a data center. So why we have to go for a cloud? You need to understand first what is data center, how it looks. What exactly data center? Data center is the place where they are going to host all the infrastructure. What type of infrastructure? A servers, storages, switches, routers. These are the engineers are working in the data center. All these are engineers are working data center 24/7. These are called rack. Under this rack, there are the blade servers. All these are blade servers. they're hosted in the rack. So this is called as a data center. In every data center, there are 5,000, more than 5,000 servers. In one rack, there are so many servers. These are called blade servers. So like this, there are number of racks here. In one data center, you'll see more than 5,000 servers. Not only servers, storages, storage boxes, switches, routers, all this called as a infrastructure. So to understand AWS, first you need to understand what is this physical data center. All these are called as a physical data center. The meaning of physical data center maintained by their own organization. IBM, they have their own data center. IBM, they have their own data center. Israel, where is IBM data center? Israel. This is IBM Cloud. IBM hosted their servers in AWS. They hosted their servers in AWS, which is AWS Cloud. What is cloud? We'll discuss tomorrow. So this is basically what is called data center. Every company, they have their own data center. What is data center? It's a place or location where they're going to keep all their infrastructure. They're going to host all this infrastructure. That is called as a data center. This is called as a physical data center. The meaning of physical data center, we're able to see this data center. We're able to see this data center. We can find this location Google Map. Physical means we can see this in Google Map. We can go there. We can see that. That is called physical data center. But whereas cloud data center, we don't know where this data center in the cloud. We can't see that. The discussion tomorrow class. So this is called physical data center. What is this physical data center? What it contains? What are the advantages, disadvantages of physical data center? Why we have to go for AWS cloud? What are the advantages of AWS cloud? That we'll discuss in tomorrow class. First, you have to aware of what is this application, types of application. What are the types of layers? Where we use static web application, where we use dynamic. What is presentation layer? What is application layer? What is data link? Once you understand this application, tomorrow we'll discuss about this data centers. What is physical data center? What is cloud data center? What are the advantages, disadvantages of physical data center? Why you have to go for cloud data center? What are the types of deployment models? Cloud deployment models. And what are the cloud services? All this stuff we'll discuss in tomorrow. Any questions? So 3-4 days, the entire till Friday we have only theoretical part. Till Friday only theoretical part. From Monday onwards, we are going to discuss about the practicals. We'll start AWS topics from Monday. Till Saturday, we'll be having only theoretical part. Any questions, guys? Am I clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No worries, no worries. Even if you don't have knowledge on operating system, networking, database, storage, start from the scratch. I'll cover start from the scratch. While discussing database, I'll explain what is database. While discussing VPC, virtual private cloud, security groups, I'll discuss about networking. What is IP address? What is the classes of IP address? What is private IP? What is public IP? For every topic, before we start the topic in AWS, I'll explain the basics, start from the scratch. Anyone can learn because of it is very user friendly, like Microsoft. Everything is a graphical mode. So we are going to create the account in AWS. All the practicals we are going to do in AWS. All the practicals we are going to do in AWS. I'll explain you on maybe on Friday how to create the account in AWS. How to create the account in AWS. You don't need to install anything on your laptop. You don't need to install anything on laptop. Everything we are going to do the practicals, all the practicals we are going to do in AWS only. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll show you how to access the services AWS, how to log into the AWS. Okay, guys, see you tomorrow, same time.
Okay.
Okay,
Offline or online, sir?
Hello?
Sir, tomorrow offline or online, sir?
Online. Till Friday,
Offline
till
levels.
Friday online. Once you start the practicals, you can come after.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Who's asking?
Firoz, sir.
Yes.
Firoz.
Suresh.
Firoz.
Suresh. Okay. This week only online.
Okay, sir.
Hello. Hello. First, leave. How we display. At 90-10. 90-10.
నేను మీ దగ్గర మీరు ఎక్కడ ఉంటా అంటే అక్కడికి వచ్చేస్తాను నాకు తెలియదు లేదు ఎక్కడ ఉన్నా డీటెయిల్ లేదు
స్టార్టింగ్ మళ్ళీ ఎట్లుంటుంది సార్ ప్రైవేట్ మళ్ళీ ఎట్లుంటుంది సార్
అదా ప్రాబ్లం లేదు కానీ ఎక్కడికి రమ్మంటే అక్కడికి వస్తా ఆఫ్లైన్ ఆన్లైన్ ఎందుకంటే నేను ఇంట్లో ఉన్నాను సార్ ఇంట్లో ఉంటే నరకం ఉంటుందని మొత్తం డే మొత్తం బయట ఉంటా నా తెలుగు పేపర్ లేకుండా ఇంగ్లీష్ మాట్లాడకపోతే ఫీజు వాపర్
పైకి రండి.
ఎప్పుడు సార్
416
ఎప్పుడు టైం
ఫ్రెష్ బ్యాచ్ ముందే ఇవాళ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాం.
స్టార్ట్ చేశారా? అవునా? బేసిక్ స్టార్ట్ ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు?